you wondering what to carry with you on bike rides? If so, you're in the right place. In this video, I'm going to share what I take on every bike ride, regardless of length, what I might take on longer or more remote bike rides, and finally, how I pack. So to start, the stuff I take on every bike ride, no matter how long it is water. A good rule of thumb is to bring 1 bottle of water for every hour that you're planning on riding. Now, the more you ride, the more you'll become accustomed with what your body needs, and you can adjust. But to start out with, that's a good guideline. Anytime you're sweating, you should also be adding electrolytes to your water. For shorter rides, you can take something like these, which are handy because they're in a little bottle. For longer rides, though, like above 2 hours, I like to add in an electrolyte that has glucose and some calories. So good examples of those are Osmo Hydration or Scratch Labs. After hydration, the next most important thing is fueling. So I always bring snacks. If it's a ride less than an hour, you probably don't need to eat anything, but I still bring something along just in case I bonked or maybe I didn't eat a good breakfast ahead of time. Another good rule of thumb is to bring 1.5 calories per pound of body weight per hour that you're going to be out. So if you weigh 150 pounds, you would want to bring 200 calories per hour that you're going to be out. For a 3-hour ride, that would be 600 calories. You may also want to throw in a little extra just in case. It's always better to have too much to eat than not enough. Next is a mini pump. This is the Lezyme mini pump. It is my favorite. I have tested and tried all kinds of mini pumps over the years. It has a hose that screws on with both a Presta valve and a Schrader valve end. And it just makes it really easy to get high pressures in your tire without killing your arm. If you're a tiny lady like me, that matters. Now, if you have more than just a low tire, if you actually get a flat tire while you're out riding, then you also need to make sure that you have things to fix it. Depending on what kind of tire setup you have, it'll be a little bit different. If you have tubes in your tires, then you need a spare tube. Make sure it's the right one for your bike. If you're not sure, take your bike to a bike shop and they'll help you select the right tube. Tire levers, so you can get your tire off to take out the old tube and put in the new one. And if you do have tubeless tires instead of tubes in your tires, then you can get away without taking a tube and tire levers and just bring tubeless plugs and a little reamer tool like this. That way, if you have a hole in your tire, you just shove one of these plugs into the hole and hopefully get your tire to stop leaking. That's what I do if I'm close to home somewhere where I can get a rescue if needed. If I'm further away from home, then I would still go ahead and carry a tube and tire levers. Even with a tubeless tire, it's always better to be able to throw a tube in if needed. You could also consider carrying a CO2 cartridge and an inflator valve like this. The really great thing about a CO2 cartridge is that it just airs up your tire really fast and gets you back out on the road or trail. It also makes it easier to get to high pressures that you need on a road bike without killing your arm using a mini pump. Now, the bad part of a CO2 cartridge is that I cannot tell you the number of times that I've seen someone go to inflate their tire with this and release all the air before they actually get it into the tire. And if you don't have a mini pump with you, then you're stranded and out of luck. So even if I'm carrying a CO2 cartridge, I still recommend carrying that mini pump just in case. A mini tool is a really important thing to have with you. A bike-specific mini tool will have all kinds of different sizes of Allen keys. Now you can use these for all sorts of things, like adjusting your saddle, tightening loose bolts. Depending on the tool you get and the amount of gadgets it has, it may also have things like a chain breaker, which can come in really handy. I always ride with cash or a credit card. If you're using cash, you can just leave it in a bike bag that's always with you. Having money will get you out of all sorts of problems. First, you can stop at a gas station and get extra snacks. You could buy a tube if you forgot a tube off of another rider. Or if you have a credit card, you could always use it to get a taxi if you got stranded somewhere. It's a really important safety item to just have that money along. I like to carry some form of ID. This could be your driver's license. It could also be a road ID bracelet. That's really handy because it has your emergency contact information any kind of medical information that first responders might need. So if you had an allergy or diabetes, you could have that information on the bracelet. We never want to believe something bad is going to happen to us, but if God forbid you did have a crash, it's really important for first responders to be able to figure out who you are and how to get a hold of your loved ones. Finally is my cell phone. Not only can I use it to call for help if I need help, my spouse can also use it to track my location. We have iPhones, so we can use Find My Phone, but there are other apps you can use for this purpose as well. And I can also use my phone for navigation. So that's what I take with me on every ride I go on. Now I'm going to show you what I might take on a ride that is longer or more remote. These aren't things I'm going to take with me on every single ride. I'm going to pick and choose depending on the circumstances. The first thing is additional clothing layers. If I'm going for a short ride close to home, I'm probably fine in whatever I'm wearing. But if I'm headed out into the mountains where weather can change unpredictably and quickly, then bringing extra layers is always a good idea. Next is a more comprehensive toolkit. In addition to those things I mentioned earlier, like a mini pump and a tube, I have over the years built up a really comprehensive toolkit that can get me out of almost any situation I could find myself in. This has things like a spare chain link, a chain breaker, zip ties, duct tape, a spare derailleur hanger, even a needle and thread in case I got a sidewall tear. You don't necessarily need all of those things for every ride, but I do recommend over time building up a toolkit and learning how to use them while you're at home and not out in an emergency situation. In terms of electronic, you're going to want something for navigation. You may choose to bring a bike-specific GPS unit that you can mount to your handlebars. Personally, I just like using my cell phone. If you are using your phone, though, you want to make sure you download whatever maps you're going to need ahead of time, so in case you get out of cell phone range, you don't have a problem. If I'm riding alone or out of cell phone range, I also bring a spot tracker. This allows any person that I give the link to see my location, and it gives me a couple options in case I run into a problem. The first one is there is a button I can push that will send a text message to my husband or sister, whatever family member who's going to be tracking me. This will give them my GPS location and allow them to come rescue me. If the problem is bigger than a broken bike and I actually have a true emergency situation, there is an SOS button I can push to call emergency services. Obviously, you don't want to do this except for in the most extreme conditions, but it will get search and rescue to come out and find you. So this is a really important safety item if you're going to be alone or in more remote areas. As an upgrade to the Spot, there's also the Garmin InReach, which in addition to everything I already mentioned, also allows you to send text messages outside of cell service. If I know that there is a good chance I'm going to be out after dark, I will bring a good quality bike light. But even if I don't think I'm going to be out after dark, but there's a chance I could be, I'll bring a small, cheap bike light like this that will at least get me home safely. In terms of water, if I'm on a road bike, I know I'm probably going to be passing through towns on my long rides, and there'll be ample opportunity to refill water. But if I'm out on my gravel bike or my mountain bike, I like to bring a water filter. This means as long as I'm passing some kind of stream or other water source, I'll be able to refill my water. I've created this little kit that has first aid supplies like Band-Aids, Neosporin, alcohol swabs, gauze. It also has medications that I could potentially need, like ibuprofen, Tums, and Benadryl. Finally, it has personal hygiene items that I might like sunscreen, chapstick, baby wipes. I got some shaving cream. And if you're a woman, you could throw in some personal hygiene items in there as well. Other things I don't have in here right now, but that wouldn't be a bad choice to bring, are a space blanket. I've actually used a space blanket before when I got caught in a freak snowstorm in Flagstaff, Arizona, and it very likely saved my life. Another thing are chemical hand warmers. If you're riding in cold weather, those can be really handy. They don't take up a lot of space, and you would use them in the event of an emergency. Finally, if I did not remember to charge my phone the night before, Or if I just know I'm going to be out all day and I'm using my phone for navigation and for calling for help, then I may choose to bring a battery pack. This little Anchor battery pack has my charge cord on it, and it can recharge my cell phone if the battery gets low. Now you might be wondering, how the heck do I carry all of this stuff? Well, there are multiple ways you can do this. On your bike, you can use a water bottle cage for water bottles, put a seat bag on your saddle, or you can use a handlebar bag, top tube bag, feed bag, or even a frame bag. Now, you don't want to carry too much stuff, so make sure you're not going wild, but depending on how long and remote the ride might be, some of these bags can be really helpful. Finally, you could also put a bag on your body. A hydration pack is a great way to carry water, but you can also put in things like your tools and snacks, and they come in a backpack format, a hip pack, or even as a vest. If, like me, you watched this video and then you're going to go and forget everything that you just saw, I do have a downloadable checklist for you. I have this hung up in my garage. That way I don't make it a couple miles from home before I forgot something like a water bottle or a mini pump. If you'd like that checklist, you can find a link to download it for free in the video description. You can find links to all of the things that I've shown here in the video description in case you're still working on building up your own bike kit. I hope you enjoyed this video, and until next time, happy riding.